Welcome to Keeping Up with Our Community, a podcast for and about Romeo Community Schools. Each week, we will invite different guests to share insights about some unique aspects of our schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. Their in-studio podcast experience allows you to record perfect audio and capture amazing video. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. Contact them now via email for a free consultation and schedule a visit at mit.tvpodcast@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvpodcast@gmail.com. Hello, my name is Marianne Brush, Communications and Marketing Supervisor for Romeo Community Schools, and this is episode 52 of our Keeping Up with Our Community Schools podcast. With us today are three new members of Romeo Community Schools Board of Education, Allison Bowman, Aaron Boyer, and Brielle Chahaki. Today is an opportunity for our listeners to get to know them a little better beyond the campaign trail. I will now turn it over to our host, Superintendent Dr. Todd Robinson, to lead the discussion.
All right, well, welcome and thank you, Marianne, for that introduction. Excited to continue this series of podcasts that I've been hosting around our annual theme of purpose. And, when Marianne talked to me about, let's see if we can get the new board members in for a podcast. I'm grateful that you guys are willing to be a part of this journey with us, with our district podcast. And, as I thought about, how could we frame our conversation, where maybe I wasn't initially thinking around our annual theme, I was like, this is perfect because it's a very purposeful intent to pursue a seat on the school board and serve. And when I think of things like that, the average person in the community might not even know, like you're committing to a 6-year term. That's longer than any legislative term, any federal term. So I'm grateful for your guys' willingness. So I think it's probably best we just start with maybe a little bit more personal touch and hearing a little bit about you, maybe your family, your time in the community, just the things that you would like to share for the listeners to have a little bit more insight into you personally. So Aaron, we'll let you break the ice and start us off. The ladies will be appreciative of you kind of taking the first run here. So
no problem.
Share a little bit about you and your family.
Sure, yeah. It's been in the community 25 years. Live over in Carriage Hills. 3 older kids that have gone through Romeo schools. They're all very successful now, both in their careers and life. And 2 younger kids are now in the school, one in 9th grade and one in 5th grade, over at Indian Hills. And a lot of I hire out of Romeo schools. I've worked with Romeo schools with the engineering group, Eva Dawson and that. And we turn out a very good student, a very good employee, for future date. I've got a returning intern. He's coming back for a 2nd year with our company, going to learn CAE, computer-aided engineering. And definitely a good student turned out from Romeo.
Good, thank you.
Good employee.
Sure. Well, as I've said along the campaign trail, we've been a military law enforcement family for 20 years now, so my family has lived all over the place, some exciting places, some not so exciting places. But we moved here in 2021 knowing we wanted our kids in Romeo. There wasn't much for sale, so we got lucky, found a home, jumped on it, and my kids started in middle and high school, and now I have 2 in high school that are still in the district. And I started working when I got here. I worked in food service, then I became a substitute teacher, and then I did school security. So we kind of dove right in head first. And I've been pleasantly surprised with everything that I've seen, experienced. My kids are thriving, what they're learning. There's so much positive that I think a lot of people don't even know about because they're not on the inside. So I feel like that's been something that's been great to bring to light to the community.
Great. Brielle?
Hi. So I've been a part of Washington Township since 1999, and then my husband and I built our forever home in 2020, knowing that we wanted our kids to be in Romeo District. Mm-hmm. My husband and I have been married for 12 years. I have 3 elementary age children, 5th grade, 2nd grade, and kindergarten. So my life really revolves around Hampar.
Mm-hmm. So, I talked a little bit about, we've been working through this year around our annual theme of purpose, and back at the beginning of the year, we spent some time with our leadership team in August, and I had that group develop their own individual purpose statements, and we shared those and reflected on those and kind of move forward to opening day, and kind of cast a vision for our staff, and then the principals kind of so found the time to allow their staff to create their own purpose statements. So we've been on this journey of staff sharing those as a part of different meetings, and the hopes that it just kind of encouraged and affirmed their colleagues, but also kind of made people feel a little bit about why they do this work. This work is challenging. It's not getting any easier, and so I just feel like there has to be a level of moral purpose, at least, that leads people to the profession. But I think it's also fitting, for the three of you as community members and parents, but maybe more importantly in this chapter of pursuing a seat on the school board, and that has some purpose to it. So I guess if I framed it as a question, it would be, what do you feel is your purpose in pursuing and now having a seat on the school board? So Allison, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, it's a lot of things. It's not just one answer. Upon moving here, I dove right in. So I worked on the inside. I've also been worn a hat as a parent. So, I'm seeing things from the inside and out, and there's so much positive that parents and families that are thinking about moving here don't see. So I found myself constantly talking to community members and other parents, like, look, this is going on, and they had no clue. Yeah, I did see some things that I thought, okay, maybe we could improve that, because there's always room for improvement. So after working in food service, subbing, and then security, it just seemed like the next logical step to having that knowledge of wearing all those different hats was to run for the board, because I'd been in communication with the board on different things, and it just was a calling. That's what my heart was telling me to do, and I again dove right in on that. So.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Brielle.
My why is obviously my 3 children. They're all still little, so I have so much time that I get to spend. I love Romeo, and I think it's great. And I know, like she said, there is still room for improvement. So I just want to make sure that my 3 have the best possible education and community and everything surrounding them. And I want to make sure I'm a part of that, and diving right into that.
Yeah. Aaron?
Well, I always say, the purpose of getting through high school is to prepare you to move on to your next level of life, whether you're going to college, whether you're going to your career from there, or, whatever life brings you next. My primary goal was to keep that focus, keep a lot of the other things that seem to be distracting in schools away from, the true education, reading, writing, arithmetic. And, in Romeo schools, we obviously have a very good program for a very, early age of saying we're preparing the kids to know what they want to do in their next phase of life. In fact, Bernie Oswald in the meeting last night for orientation was stating that even though we have the different academies, even 50% of the kids will stay in that academy and others will move. And I talked to a friend of mine recently. There was a waiter at a Mexican restaurant in Utica, and he graduated from Romeo schools, and he went through the medical side. He was doing EMT, and now he's in business, and he was glad he did the EMT here because he realized he couldn't handle blood.
Yeah.
So to go through, a couple years of college and then realize that, lose some time in his life in that, but he was able to refocus and get on track and get his life going the way he wanted to go.
We talk a little bit about some of the best success stories in the academy journey is those kids that think that's what they want to do, and they realize in the sequence of courses and that maybe that isn't for them. And I think from a parent lens, like we just talk about economics of, sending a kid off to college and a year or a year and a half in, they decide they want to change their major and, what that costs. Or I can think of people, that I went to school with that went got a degree and never used it. So that's the piece that I think, as an example, you've referred to, like there's some things going on, and it isn't a perfect science, but we think those are victories too.
It's a great approach.
Yeah. So it's been a busy couple of first months, and we had some intentional onboarding sessions, and just tried to share as much as we can. But I always have believed like you kind of got to be on the board for a year, so you see everything once in terms of some of these annual times of the school year and board activity, and then it's like, okay, things come around a second time, but it's been busy, and I appreciate your dedication in between just a lot of meetings and some other events and things like that has given you kind of a taste. But maybe just a couple of highlights from the first couple months on the board, that you would share for our listeners. Brielle, what's some of what you would have as highlights?
I love when the high school comes, because again, I have little kids, so I never get to experience the high school, but I really loved when like the EMT and HHP and all of them came, and I could listen to some of the teachers and the students speak about what they're learning, and watching Sarah Pyle cry when her students were talking. I was like, that's an excellent teacher, and this is just an excellent program. And then the middle school nonprofit was it was really great watching their kids just open, their minds to new possibilities around the community.
Yeah. Allison?
Well, again, the nonprofit fair last week I knew it was going to be fun, but I wasn't expecting how awesome that first turnout was, because it was the first annual. So I'm very happy to be invited by the academy leader at the middle school that invited the board, and we've been invited to some other things. So the fact that the community wants us to come and see things and show off their hard work, that's exciting, because that's not something I thought about, or, so that's exciting. I've gotten to know a lot of teachers and staff that I've never met, because my kids may never have had them or weren't in those buildings. So I'm meeting staff at all levels rather than just the high school where my kids go and I worked. And my favorite thing so far is on top of the district meetings, we've gone to Macomb ISD meetings, and I had no idea that ISD does what it does in its building in Macomb County. Like, for example, I didn't know that they print their own books, Braille books for blind children in the district here. I have a background in sign language interpreting and working with the deaf and the deafblind, and I know I had knowledge of what it costs to send out for these materials for these kids to adapt to learning, and I am just blown away by what the ISD does in their own building. That is something I'd love to highlight, because I don't think the community, I didn't have any idea.
Yeah.
And I don't think I think the community would be really thrilled to hear what they're doing for kids of all walks of life.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. I'm sure Mr. DeVault will happily take that compliment. So Aaron, how about you?
Interesting. I've been on multiple boards before, so being on an open board where you're in an open meeting is a different change, where everyone's watching what you're doing the whole time, which is good. Keeps everything honest and transparent. I agree with everything the girls said, but the one thing really stuck out to me was the special education. When they came and presented, I knew that we had some, special education program, but I didn't know the extent of it. It was extremely heartwarming, and good to see again the dedication of teachers, the love they have for the kids, and how well that program is succeeding.
Yeah, that was a great night for me, just because, it just watching the chemistry of it all, like controlled chaos, you know what I'm saying? But like to watch our staff members, and not just our teachers, those support staff members that were there, and they know those kids, and so they're kind of tag teaming, and they're picking up this kid from here and there and keeping them busy, because that was a lot for the young kids when we bring them for our spotlight. So that was super affirming, and and I think one of the things that that sometimes we just don't talk enough about is one of the important aspects of public education is, I say we teach them all. You know what I'm saying? And so we talk a little bit about the ISD. Well, the ISD runs all that programming for kids at the local school districts. Their needs are greater than what we can supply. And there's a lot of people that don't understand the network of ISD center-based schools and how important those are for us when we have students that go beyond ours. So those are all great highlights. What about something you've learned that you weren't necessarily aware of prior to actually getting into the chair and being on the board?
The amount of meetings and research. I'm sure it's just because of the first couple of months we have so much to learn, but I will say, yeah, like the amount of meetings, the emails, the prepping, just, because certain things I don't, like bonds, I don't really understand things. So I have to research to be able to keep up with the pace of everybody talking about it.
Yeah.
So.
Allison?
Pretty much the same thing. I mean, I'm a preparer and a researcher. That's I'm not comfortable or feel prepared until I've done all that. And I knew it's a lot of time, a lot of our own time, because this isn't a paid position. And, some people are still shocked that they're like, oh, you don't get paid. We're like, no, we don't. We knew that. We're not here because we're here to serve the district. And so just reading bylaws, I've read the bylaws, I've read the policies, I've read the Open Meetings Act. It kind of registers, and then when we get to a specific situation, I have to go back and read it again because it applies differently here or there, and it's just being prepared to know you're doing the right thing, the rules, the laws. That it's overwhelming. So,
Yeah.
but we have a lot of help. We have Dr. Robinson and Miss McFarland and other veteran board members to turn to. So that definitely takes the edge off a little bit of making sure we're doing everything right and by the book and so forth.
Great. Aaron?
I think I got placed on the finance committee as kind of retribution. My wife's an accountant. My oldest daughter's an accountant. My son's, studying to be an accountant. So it's, and I'm an engineer. They just tell us what money we can't spend. So I'm not always a big accountant fan.
Yeah.
But as you guys know, I ask a lot of questions. So we try to get to the bottom of everything. So it's been good. It's probably good for me to be on the finance committee to, see what's going on there and understand it.
Sure.
I like the challenge.
I'm appreciative, and I know I've shared this with you folks a couple times. Like, it is a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? And you have busy lives. You know what I'm saying? And so, every board member seems to kind of find that routine of, when they can have those pockets of time. And it's a lot, and you can't necessarily know everything. But I think over time, we learn as an entity that there's just certain people that have an acumen. Maybe that's just because of, their professional career or something like that, or a specific interest they have. And I'm not sure the community, we talk about that from the board table at times, not often, but people don't see, they only see that a couple times a month, maybe. Where we have the open meetings, but there's a lot to that, and I appreciate you all just digging in, because that makes the entire board's job easier, but it certainly makes myself and our cabinet team's job easier, because it never bodes well when we get in a situation and we have members on the board that maybe haven't done some of that homework and don't have context, and you feel compelled to respond to a prompt or something like that. And sometimes we just need to step back. And questions, you hear me say all the time, like, questions are great. Questions should happen all the time. But in a couple of months, at least from my vantage point, and I've heard that from some of our veteran board members and even some of our committee leading cabinet members, like, they're appreciative that you're doing the work, and we'll take the questions. So our purpose theme is kind of focused on these three aspects or three lenses this year. And every year I go on this journey to decide what the annual theme will be for the next year, and typically sometime in between March and July, something resonates enough that I'm like, I think this is something that can that can lead us for this next year. And I always tell our staff, maybe you heard me say this before, education is so cyclical. Like, we go through these milestones in each school year and then we start over again. So where are we at on the treadmill now? Well, we're coming out of winter. You know what I'm saying? For my high school friends, there isn't much to lobby for anymore about snow days, but we can think about spring break. You know what I'm saying? And we just get to that milestone. And so sometimes, even though, the journey of a child from, 4 or 5 years old till we hand them a diploma is a long time. But if we can compartmentalize that annually and have something just to kind of give us a little extra focus, that's my notion of this annual theme. So, I really wanted to have this notion of starting with people, kind of developing their own or identifying or affirming their own purpose, and then look at it through this notion of our, which would be more like, this team, this group, this department, this grade level, this building. So we've done a little bit of that. It hasn't landed as perfectly as maybe I envisioned it. But we've talked in our onboarding sessions about, the board and the superintendent. I had a couple mentors when I first started in this role at a neighboring district. And one of the things that always stuck with me was this notion of a team of 8. And so there's 7 elected school board members and the superintendent, and they are a team. And you can see right now we spend a lot of time together. Sometimes it's smaller factions of the team because of a quorum, and we got to do things in committee, but also collectively the team is 8. So I would say, can you share a thought or two on just the need for purpose behind, or the importance of the board working together?
Well, I mean, I'm going on my 5th year here, so I didn't experience prior boards so much and prior, district leadership. So what I see now is engagement. I see teachers, parents, students that are excited that know us already because we've worked here. Our kids are in the same grade. We've done sports, whatever connected us. They're seeing engagement prior to us running, and now even more with us being in the seat. And we have board members now that either have kids that have gone through the school, some work in healthcare, some work in corporate, some are teachers, some are subs and have been former educators or worked in special ed. I mean, we all bring different things to the table. And I think it's important that if we find ourselves in a situation where we're not agreeing on something, somebody else in that lane might bring something to the table that we never even realized, and how it would affect public school or the teachers or the students. So I love that we all bring different things to the table that might open our eyes to something we never even thought about, and make those best decisions for the students, staff, and parents, and the community as a whole.
Yeah, great. Aaron?
Yeah. Well, we all bring 1/7 of a vote to the table.
Yeah.
So
well said.
And we're gonna all have differences of opinions at times, but you got to be inquisitive to understand what the other person's opinion is, and and work from there. But at the end of the day, we figure out what's best for the district, and what the voters voted for, and move on from there.
Yeah. Brielle?
Sure. I think working together is essential for our board, because I always feel like each school is like an own island, and you never know what's going on in these different buildings. And then when we all get together, we're bringing them together. So I think we're all really good with that, and I think it's because we're coming from different buildings. Good point.
Yeah. It's interesting. Sometimes I would seize this moment for me personally to say, we know what the campaign trail was. We know what the division really and she's in the world and our community's been arguably for 4 years now or more, and I tell people, like, I meet with our prospective new teacher hires individually, and that's really important to me. And sometimes the conversation will lead itself to, I ask them, what did you know about Romeo before you came, and what have you learned in the hiring process, and why us, and you don't have a conversation about this place without hearing the word family or community or both. So one of the things that was really challenging coming out of the pandemic was, this division in our community in a place that was pretty tight knit. And it was heartbreaking for me, if I was honest. I knew enough. I had been here long enough, and I was like, wow, this just isn't us. And there's some people that have told me, like, you're not from here, so you're never really going to be in. And so I said, well, that's okay. After a couple of years, I said, I'm opening the door and I'm inviting myself in. So nevertheless, I just think the division in that, and we can't get by that, and I don't even share that from a political standpoint. We can't get by that in some instances. So, for me, it's like, whatever perception there is, I have 7 bosses, that's unique in public education. But, that is what it is. For me, it's a team of 8. And I've really appreciated our veteran board members, who I think have been very intentional with you about, we're going to do this together, because some of them have experienced chapters of Romeo board where it was very divided. And, we've got examples around us in other communities where, it's certainly going to be challenging at times, but I'm just grateful that I think, the 3 of you, and along with our incumbent board members, I think are truly committed, to working together. And as some of you have hinted, and I've said, that doesn't mean we're always going to agree. So I'm grateful for that. I guess,
It's interesting you said about Romeo and the community. It is a very tight community. And 25 years here, and during the election a few times people are like, oh, you've only been here 25 years. I'm like, that's half my life.
Yeah.
Okay. And but I love what Brielle said about building her forever home here, because that's what this community is about. People say, I want to build my forever home here.
Yeah.
And because that community is so family oriented and welcoming. So,
met a lot of alumni, interview a lot of people that they've gone and worked elsewhere. Like, there is this trend of, they grow up here, they get a diploma, they go to college, or pursue a career, they want to get out. But it always seems to be when it's time to refocus more on that family chapter of your life, they know the comfort and that foundation of what this community is. I wish, because we also hear all the time from young families, further south in the county, that want to come out here. They want a little bit more of space, and they want to take advantage of the district. And it's really hard to find a home in our district, but we'll leave that for another podcast. So the last piece of this is this notion of their purpose. And I think, our staff, our community at large, does a lot to just pour into our kids and help them develop purpose. And this isn't always clear in my vision of this when I discuss this with some of our staff, but, our youngest learners in Croswell are working. I'm not wired to do that work, but yet we have gifted people who are, and they're beginning to build purpose, and we think about moving through the elementary and into the middle school, and the high school people can see it more, especially with the academies work and getting kids to invest in learning more about a career they believe they're interested in pursuing. But I guess I would say, can you share an example where you see purpose being developed in our students as a result of, some specific opportunity or program?
I would say the special services, special education, because not only do we get a wonderful presentation the other meeting with the Bulldog Spotlight, I've worked with some of these kids in the building alongside these teachers, and they have a lot on their plate. They are tired, and they deal with anything that comes at them at any minute of the day, and I'm amazed. So seeing some of the kids that have started when I started here in the 9th grade building, and seeing where they've gone on to their senior year, and seeing how that staff has not only helped them overcome whatever their challenges were, and there are many, in a variety, seeing how they've blossomed, and seeing how the staff communicates with about these students from the IRR programs, the elementary, to the middle school, special services to the high school special services, they meet a lot and they talk a lot. And they want these kids to be prepared when they go on to the next building, because a lot of these kids don't like change. You know, they're used to their routines. And I'm blown away how they communicate as staff to make sure these kids and the kids are prepared and the staff are prepared when they go from middle to high school or the 9th grade to the 10th through 12th building. So these teachers, parapros, who else am I missing? There's so many social workers, counselors. There's so many. It's a team effort. So seeing these kids overcome their challenges because of all these adults in the room that are cheering for them and championing them and fighting for them is just, it's priceless.
Yeah. There's a lot of intentionality in any work in public education, but that chapter or that department and the work those people do, because in large part it's kind of doubling down on the need to create independence, for children, as they grow to adulthood. Aaron, how about you?
Well, to me, it's good to see the excitement you see with these kids in the academies. Look at your daughter and how she's excited about the EMT. I go and talk with the engineering group and that. I mean, I'm in automotive industry, and I tell them that our high school has 4 CNC machines, and they, holy cow, 4 CNC machines. I mean, that's something you see in a prototype shop,
Mm-hmm.
So, and the kids are programming and doing this, and they're excited, and especially getting your hands on equipment like that. That's, not even some colleges have that type of stuff. That's great stuff. So to me, the prep that we're doing here and seeing the excitement out, I've got an intern. He's coming back for second year internship at my company, moving on to a much more challenging area of the company, and I think he's going to handle it no problem. And the funny thing was, he's at Oakland University right now, and he was an all-star last internship go around, and he said 90% of what prepared him for that internship came from Romeo.
Yeah.
No knock on Oakland University. Yeah. He's first year engineering, but
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Really good, yeah.
Riel?
I see purpose in every grade, like every level. Elementary school, coming from Hampar, our principal, she's on year 2, but she's phenomenal. And she makes sure that all of our children feel like they have some kind of purpose, whether it's recess toys that they treat with kindness, and the middle school, teaching the middle schoolers to handshake and eye contact. And then the high school with the academies, when they came in and talking about, they want to be an EMT or they want to be a tradesman, and just having a purpose in life to say, okay, this is what I want to do. That's a big deal coming out of high school and knowing what you really want to do.
Yeah. So I told you before we started recording, like I always tell our staff, like, all right, you get an opportunity to give a shout out, a final thought, things that you would just add for those that might listen. So Brielle, I'll start with you, and any final thoughts and any shout outs you want to give.
Well, I'll give a shout out to my kids, Brody, Beckett, and Blakely, and my husband, Brian, and all of Hampar. I'm very biased for them. They're the best.
All right. Allison?
Well, it's always about the students, but I want to give a shout out to the teachers and the parents, because along the campaign trail, I've knocked on doors. I've met people who knew me before I even realized I knew them. And I just want them to know that we're here for them. We are a voice for them. I've had staff and parents reach out to me while running and since we've won, just with positive and negative concerns. So I want everyone to know it's okay if you're not comfortable speaking up, we're here for you. We're here to listen, because not everybody's afraid to, or not everybody is comfortable just saying what they think. So if there's something you want or need, this board is here for you. And I just want, no matter what it is or what your preconceived notions about us might be, I think you might be surprised. So if there's parents, teachers, or students, we're here. We're here for you. That's why we chose to serve and run, and that's what we're going to do.
Aaron, how about some final thoughts or a shout out from you?
Perfect. So again, I would agree with the teachers, and the staff. I've met so many wonderful people on this whole campaign trail, and and then getting elected. Thanks to the voters for that, obviously. My shout out to my wife, extremely supportive in everything I do. all my kids that are graduated and still here in Romeo schools. They're obviously, my son Ashton is part of the robotics team, excited. He loves it. Competition's coming up.
Yeah, shout out Biting Bulldogs.
Exactly. So
Had to plug that, didn't you?
Yep. But yeah, no, this has been a great journey, and I thank everyone for all the support behind it.
Could I add one more thing? I forgot to thank my tireless husband and my children who have put up with a lot of absence. I've been a off and on stay-at-home mom for 20 years, and I've been absent a lot, and they have picked up the slack, and I don't think I thank them enough because I'm so in my own headspace with what I'm learning and doing. So I just want to say thank you to my 3 teenage daughters, Mina, Lila, and Selena, and Joe.
Yep. I think if there's any piece of this that maybe we don't mention enough, it is your families, because it's a lot. You know what I'm saying? And there's dinners that you're late for. There's dinners that you're ordering to the house, because you're not there, and there's times where you're trying to get through a lengthy packet or something like that, and around family stuff. So I'm grateful for your families and what this journey is going to be, because it's 6 years. It's a lot, and from other members you've met on the board, sometimes the calling is to do it again. Well, I think we've been purposeful in our conversation today, and I appreciate the opportunity to spend this time with you, and we'll wrap it up there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we will chat with some Romeo High School students who will share their in-district work-based learning experience with our listeners. Thank you for joining us, and tune in next week to keep up with Romeo Community Schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. Their in-studio podcast experience allows you to record perfect audio and capture amazing video. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. Contact them now via email for a free consultation and schedule a visit at mit.tvpodcast@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvpodcast@gmail.com.